The marble-floored auditorium of the University of São Paulo buzzed with intellectual chatter. Only a moment before everything fell into an uneasy silence. Brazil's most prestigious linguists, professors, researchers, and scholars with decades of academic recognition sat shoulder to shoulder beneath the golden banners of the International Congress of Lost Languages. And standing at the center of the stage like a king who owned the narrative was Dr. Roberto Manzini, TV darling, self-proclaimed master of 30 languages, and the type of man who had never in his life imagined that anyone could outshine him. On the screen behind him flashed the mysterious inscription found deep in the backlands of Minas Gerais, a linguistic puzzle that had defeated every expert present for the last 3 hours. Frustrated, irritated, cornered by his own intellectual limits, so he looked for an easier target. His eyes drifted to the back of the room, where a young girl quietly wiped down coffee tables with a cloth tucked in one hand. 16-year-old Leticia Santos. "The experts can't seem to figure it out," Manzini announced, his voice soaked in theatrical mockery. Then he smirked. "So perhaps we should consult someone with a more folkloric perspective. What about the girl in the back?" Some professors gasped. Others lowered their heads in embarrassment. The racist undertone wasn't even subtle. Leticia froze for half a second. Not from fear, but from recognition. Those symbols on the screen were not foreign to her. They were the same shapes her great-grandfather had traced for her in story after story, whispered, in the twilight of old Sunday afternoons. The same secret script that had survived through blood, exile, and resistance. Her mother, Dona Carmen, rushed to her side, mortified. "There's no need, doctor. She is just a girl," she said softly, trying to guide her daughter away. "On the contrary," Manzini replied, clapping his hands as if announcing a circus act. "I'm genuinely curious. Let us see what our young expert has to offer." It wasn't curiosity. It was cruelty, dressed as humor. 50 pairs of eyes now watched Leticia, some uncomfortable, some intrigued, some waiting for humiliation. What they didn't know was that she was not just the cleaning lady's daughter. She was a linguistic prodigy, fluent in 6 languages, self-taught since age 8, studying secretly through university archives while her mother worked night shifts, academically corresponding with European researchers under a pseudonym no one here knew belonged to her. And most importantly, she was the sole living heir to a language, born in the mountains where runaway slaves once built their freedom in silence, hidden from those who would erase them. A language never meant for scholars to discover. A language that had survived centuries of erasure. Until today. Professor Helena Carvalho, one of Brazil's foremost experts on African linguistic heritage, leaned forward, already sensing there was something in this girl's eyes that did not belong to someone intimidated. That stillness wasn't fear. It was lineage. Leticia stepped forward. The auditorium held its breath. She didn't look at the symbols first. She looked at her mother, at the exhaustion carved into the lines of a woman who had spent 20 years scrubbing the same halls where her daughter would one day outshine every scholar in them. "No, Leticia said softly, placing her hand gently over her mother's. "He needs to hear this." 2. The room expected hesitation. Instead, Leticia walked toward the stage with the slow, deliberate calm of someone who was not stepping into a test, but into a birthright. Manzini forced a smile, amused by what he believed would be an easy spectacle. "Come, my dear," he said, gesturing grandly. "Let us all witness your interpretation." Interpretation. He still believed this was a guess. Leticia's eyes swept across the carved symbols projected behind him, and an emotion flashed through her that no scholar in the room could interpret. Something far older than embarrassment. Something deeper than pride. Recognition. She touched the edge of the screen with her fingertips. Not to trace the language, but to honor it. Then she spoke. "It's not a funerary inscription," she began, her voice steady. "It's a promise. Murmurs rippled through the auditorium. A promise? She continued, now translating line by line, voice gaining strength. We walked until our feet had no blood left. We hid our fire in the mountains where their maps ended. What they took from us in chains, we will rebuild in silence. The professors froze. This was not improvisation. This was fluency. This script is not a lost Amazonian dialect, she said clearly. It's the written form of Kalunga, Creole, born in hidden settlements of escaped slaves, preserved by families who refused to let their story be erased. Professor Helena's eyes widened. She had studied fragments, legends, tiny traces of Kalunga speech, but no scholar alive had ever seen a complete written system, because only the descendants of the original Maroons still guarded it. And one of them was standing right here. This artifact isn't a puzzle, Leticia said, turning to face the audience now. It's a record of survival. This inscription, it was never lost. You just never asked the people who inherited it. Silence. Not academic silence, wounded silence. The kind born when a truth overturns the entire hierarchy of a room. Manzini's confident smile twitched. That's a bold claim, he said through clenched teeth. Do you have proof of this supposed... She didn't flinch. The proof, she replied, is that this language has lived in my family for 5 generations. Passed through the bloodline you just mocked. That sentence landed like a strike across his ego. For the first time since taking the stage that morning, he realized he was not in control of the room anymore. Helena stood abruptly from her seat. "Excuse me," she said, not to Leticia, but to Manzini. "You publicly challenged a minor with a heritage language none of us here had access to. And now that she has surpassed every expert, you demand credentials?" The audience began to murmur differently now, not with curiosity, but with shame. Suddenly the situation had inverted. The spectacle was no longer her humiliation. It was his. Leticia turned back to the inscription and continued translating. "When they burn our words, we will carve them into the earth. When they silence our names, we will bury them in stone, so that our grandchildren may hear us again." Her voice broke slightly, not from nerves, but from the weight of everything hidden inside those lines. Not tragedy, not weakness. Survival turned into scripture. By the time she reached the last line, you could have heard a pin drop in that marble hall. She breathed out, softly, finishing the inscription like a closing prayer. "We are the ones who ran and did not die." A single tear rolled down Helena's face. And that was when the realization hit the audience like thunder. They weren't witnessing a translation. They were witnessing history refusing to stay buried. It had finally been recognized.